Hello, my name is Jacqueline Pollauf, and today I wanted to share a tip about warming up on the harp. I've had a couple students ask me recently about how to put together a general warm-up for themselves, so that's what I wanted to talk about. Now, I think of warming up as a musician in a similar way that I think athletes think about stretching. It's a great thing to do just to get everything ready to go kind of before you're about to practice or perform. And there are so many different ways to warm up, and lots of people have very strong individual preferences. Sometimes it also depends on the situation. For example, before a performance, many people warm up with the music that they're about to perform, quite logically. Also, in practice, sometimes warm-ups are based on exercises really aimed at building technique. So there's all sorts of approaches like that. But for just sort of a general warm-up, to have the fingers feel ready to practice and feel like everything is moving well, usually I turn to arpeggios, scales, and chords. And there are all sorts of different ways that you could do this and that you could suit this to whatever is most comfortable for you. So an arpeggio is just when you take a chord and break it up. And it could be something as simple as root position triads. And then maybe another one. Up the scale. You could expand that out and make it cover more octaves. You could do something like that, but instead of triads, instead of 3-note arpeggios, you could make it 4-note seventh chords, maybe moving up and down. If you wanted it really more of a challenge, you could use the 7th chords, but play the notes out of order. So there's really all kinds of different ways that you could play an arpeggio. Usually I advise students to pick something that feels pretty comfortable to them for the warm-up. And if they're really looking to expand their technique, maybe after the warm-up, then they practice some exercises that are kind of more on the edge of what's comfortable and what's still a bit of a challenge. After a few arpeggios, I think scales are great. So again, this could be quite simple. You could just do 8 notes up and down. Or you could do something like the hands at the same time, covering 2 octaves. My personal favorite is to have the hands play the scales a bit in a canon, so they're starting at different times. But that can be a lot of fun. But again, picking whatever really suits you. If you wanted to throw some theory in, of course, you could do scales but in different keys to work on all of your key signatures. And then lastly, I think a few rolled chords are great. You could go back to just your root position triads, or maybe some triads but moving through inversions. Or you could add another note in each hand, so rather than a 6-note rolled chord, you'd have an 8-note rolled chord. So really, I find covering some of these basic techniques at whatever level is comfortable, and playing enough so that everything feels like it's really working well within your hands and your fingers, and you're ready to tackle whatever comes next. I think all of this can be one great approach for warming up on the harp.